consider political Islam as not fundamentally different from Nazi ideology, fascist ideology, or communist ideology.
Zakat, or almsgiving, is one of the 5 pillars of the Islamic faith, whereby Muslims give generously to those in need or to promote good civic works. But while much of the Muslim world remains mired in poverty, Qatar Charity, an NGO based in Doha, has built hundreds of schools, Islamic cultural centers, and mosques in Europe. But is the goodwill of generous Muslims being cynically abused by one of the wealthiest nations on earth to advance the goals of political Islam in the West? What are Qatar's generous goals?
Flagrant one is like building mosques, bringing money from the outside, and actually paying their way into creating all kinds of NGOs that are actually based here and that can access the institutions. This is the institutional infiltration.
In Croatia, they also financed a mosque that was built in the city of Rijeka. This is in some way Islamic colonialism, or they're funding the spread of the Islamic religion.
Qatar is the main source of the money who was used to build a big mosque in Ljubljana. And when I led the secret service, we had given a warning that that's not good because there is no free lunch, and because of that I even got some threats with death and real big problems for me and my family. So this just shows that this is a very serious question.
Qatar Charity gains its charitable reputation from the small donations it receives from private individuals, but its major funders are the Qatari royal family, the Qatari Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Qatari Development Fund. So it should come as no surprise that the charity's European goals reflect the ideology of the Qatari state, and its projects align with its close associates, the Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda.
They dream of doing the caliphate again, and it's a fact. It's all over the place. We should stop organizing World Cups in Qatar and things like this and giving them stage.
A country barely larger than Corsica, with a population of only 300,000, is systematically transforming European churches into mosques, financing schools and cultural centers which promote political Islam, and backing pro-Islamic lobbying structures such as the European Islamic Union, whose stated objective is to combat Islamophobia, but which also promotes the veiling of women at a European level.
I've said many times that politics is downstream from culture. So if Christianity loses its place in mainstream European culture, something will replace it. Now we have Islam on one hand, and we have internally this new kind of militant secularism that has replaced Christianity, as is causing many problems for Catholics and other Christians who are believers and want to practice their faith. These are the burning issues in Europe. I will not be a politically correct MEP. I will speak openly on these issues.
That the Christians are the group that has taken most hit all around the world, and that's not good. Christian authorities, from the Pope down, they don't care. What we have to do is to have stricter rules, and mainly to enforce the principle of reciprocity. One church, one mosque. No church, no mosque.
But would the principle of reciprocity, even if it were observed, be sufficient to prevent what is going on at the political level here? In 2008, Qatari Minister Abdullah bin Hamad Al Attiyah attended the inauguration of the first Christian church in Doha. A diplomatic gesture, to be sure, but a hollow one, in a country with barely any Christians and where nobody can vote. In a democracy, such displays of multicultural approval are used in a completely different way.
Well, in Sweden, we see the mega mosque in Malmö being financed by Qatar. We see the social democratic mayor being there at the inauguration. And one has to ask oneself, is this a political strategy of the left to actually accept this development in return for votes? And what would we call that? So we need to expose cynical politics by the left in Malmö, in Molenbeek, where there was an agreement between the socialist mayor and the imams that in return for votes, they will apply a laissez-faire policy vis-a-vis these radical mosques.
Por supuesto que ahora mismo el principal problema de las sociedades en la Europa occidental, España, Francia, Italia, Alemania, Holanda, Suecia, es la inmigración islámica que se organiza a través de las mezquitas. En España, en mi país, proliferan las mezquitas ilegales. Creo que en Estrasburgo, Qatar está preparando una gran mezquita.
Like I said, we have to take religion seriously. This is something, and culture, this is something that the left understands, and this is why they have a major advantage when it comes to politics, because they control so much of the narrative.
If the imam gets his order what to preach about on Friday from the embassies on Thursday, is this freedom of religion as we understand it? This is politics. And if we are talking about politics, we have to deal with it in politics, because what we could monitor, especially also in the last weeks and in the last months in Germany, crowds on the street calling for a caliphate. Okay, I say if you want to live in a caliphate, there's an easy way. You can pack your luggage and leave into a country where we have caliphates. If you do not like democracy, if you do not like freedom, if you do not like women's rights, if you do not want to respect women, okay, you have the possibility and leave to such countries. But we do not want to have it in Germany. We do not want to have a caliphate all over Europe. I'm not interested. This is really a threat to our society.
Political Islam is enormously organized. Qatar is everywhere. Qatar has conquered Europe. The football teams are full of Qatar, and there are so many people who are attached now to interests of Qatar, or who are being paid directly or indirectly.
Is it possible to resist the caliphate without violating our own principles of freedom and democracy?
I need to stay with my conservative principles that I'm committed to, which is that we need to have really the freedom of speech. These mosques, that's a different case, because we're talking about radicalization of those people. So the imams are teaching that, for example, violence towards some other people is okay. So when it comes to, violence, killing, all of that, so that should be banned.
Terms like political Islam soften the reality of what is happening when Islamic infrastructure is laid in the West today. If we want to understand our future, we must first understand our past. Islamic law has been the basis of statehood in Europe before, and the caliphate once extended to the very gates of Vienna and to the Pyrenees. Christians lived under a harsh discriminatory system which banned them from owning printing presses, forced their churches underground, and levied punitive taxes for non-citizens, and certainly did not allow equal political representation for non-Muslims, a bit like Qatar today.
Mosques should not frighten us by itself, but of course there are two more things that should frighten us. One is the interference of foreign countries, so foreign state-level political influence in our countries, in our nations. And second one, maybe more importantly, as I said, the totalitarian doctrine of political Islam. We should consider political Islam as not fundamentally different from Nazi ideology, fascist ideology, or communist ideology. And these all are totalitarian ideologies that our countries are trying to keep out of our political lives. Same for political Islam should be valid.
If we want to keep our democracies, our secular enlightenment, and our freedoms, we must not tolerate revealed dogma as a source of law, must not tolerate violence as a substitute for political negotiation at any level, and we must not allow our democratic institutions to be used by foreign powers to expand their anti-democratic ideology within our own borders.
Cerrar todas las mezquitas islamistas radicales donde se defienda el salafismo o el wahhabismo, cualquiera de esas teorías que son incompatibles con Occidente.